So when you wrote the book in 2011 when it was published, did you ever envisage it being released as Spielberg's return to blockbuster day?
You know, I assumed it could never be a movie the whole time I was writing it. Just because of the nature of the story. I wanted to mash up all of pop culture together in this virtual world and pay tribute to all of it. And I knew from my experience as a screenwriter that getting all those rights and licenses would probably be cost prohibitive and impossible. And then once Warner Brothers bought the film rights, you know, I started to think, well, how could it come together? The only example of it, something like that happening before, was Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which Steven Spielberg made happen. And so by some miracle, it ended up, the screenplay and the book found its way to him. And I don't think if it had found its way to anyone else, that it would have ended up being so faithful to my book.
Yeah, and when Spielberg did end up getting the rights, how big of a collaboration process was it?
It was wonderful. Like, you know, what happens to me is what should happen to every novelist who gets their book adapted. Partly because I was already a screenwriter and I had worked on drafts of the script, and he didn't just read the current drafts of the script. He read all my drafts, and then he also read the novel and became a huge fan of the novel, and filled it full of Post-it notes that he brought into Warner Brothers and said, these are things that were not in the script that I want to put back into the movie. And then once he started working on developing the script to actually make it, he included me in all those changes whenever we needed to change something. And part of the reason that collaboration was so great is that the other screenwriter, Zach Penn, and I had become friends on a documentary that he made called Atari Game Over right before he started working on the script. So he and I had already bonded and become friends over our shared love of cinema and video games. So when Steven came on board, it was just the best collaboration ever, because I was getting to work with one of my friends, and we were both getting to work with one of our heroes. Both Zach and Steven were just huge fans of the book and wanted to capture the spirit of the book as much as possible while, you know, making the necessary changes to make it more cinematic.
Yeah, where rights are concerned, was there anything that you desperately hoped would have been in the movie that kind of just slipped away from you at the last minute?
Well, the only thing, that we ended up really tried to get and couldn't was Ultraman. Which, in retrospect, I'm actually happy about that. And it was, it wasn't because the company who owns Ultraman didn't want to let us use it. They did, but Tsubiyara was having a legal battle with another company about the foreign rights to Ultraman, and that didn't get resolved in time for us to get clearance to use him in the movie. So because of that, we had to kind of give a bigger role to the Mobile Suit Gundam, but also the Iron Giant. And I'm so happy about that, because I'm friends with the screenwriter of the Iron Giant, and I had just mentioned him in the book as a little tribute, and now the Iron Giant is having this whole renaissance, the character, as a result of Ready Player One, and I think is going to introduce a lot of other people to it. So I'm happy. And also the version with Ultraman and the version of the story that's depicted in my book is still there and will always be there.
So Iron Giant was one of my favourite films as a kid, so seeing him do everything that I would have wanted to do with a toy.
Me too.
Yeah.
And he, the Iron Giant, also that film inspired by Steven Spielberg a little bit. You know, there's very Amblin moments, and the finding the creature in the forest and leaving a trail to bring him back home, and was, the writer told me, inspired by E.T. So it was a way to pay tribute to the Iron Giant, who had already paid tribute to Steven.
And thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.